This is Gemara Baba Kama Daf Sadi Tes, and we're holding on the bottom of Sadi Chesam and Beis, right after the Mishnah. The Mishnah taught us, and we'll just repeat the first din of the Mishnah that we're just picking up with today, which is Nasan lo umnin letakin. If you give something to an uman, to craftsman to fix it, and unfortunately, instead of fixing it, they did the opposite. Said the Mishnah, Chayovin lishalim. Comes along Ravasi, Amar Ravasi lo yishanu. They state in the Mishnah we did not learn El Shanasan lecharash shida teiva umigdal. It's when you gave a charash, a craftsman, a box, an ark, a closet, to do what? Linoitz boyhen masmer, to put a masmer inside of them. And what happens in Sev and Asv and Matzmer? They did just that, but Vishivron, they broke it. In such a scenario, he's obligated to pay. But if you gave them wood to make the box, and then Vishivron, and then within the creation it broke, then says the Gemara, pot my taima una koina bishvachli. This, of course, opens up a massive sugya that the uman, with the betterment of the kli, is acquiring the item. So if you gave the uman a complete item and he had to just fix it, then there's no shvach kli that he was kind of the item with, so if it broke, he's chayiv. But if you gave him raw material, you gave him wood, and within driving the nail, within building the box, it then breaks, then he is potter. Why? Because he's kind of the wood as he creates the box when it makes it better. Says the Gemara, said our Mishnah, if you give it to him to fix, he's chayiv to pay. My love is the case, not talking about the Yahiv who hates him. The Mishnah, seemingly one would learn, is referring to a case in which you gave them eitzim, in which you gave the uman wood. Says the Gemara, she the Deva Middle, get an actual box. Hamaditani Sefer, she's Deva Migdal, says 1 second. What's the next case? The next case explicates that you gave him a she's Deva Migdal. Mechlal, the Reisha does not infer that the Reisha is eitzim, that you gave them actual wood. Answers Gemara in classical Gemara form. Amri, no. Perushe kamefaresh lo. The way to learn the Mishnah is B explains A. What is the case in which you gave to a craftsman something to fix and he ruined it? At what you're chayav l'shalem? Kegoyin shenaslan shida teva umegdol. And says the Gemara, v'achinam bistavron. This is logical. The ketzad the katani. The Ketzad Katani, because it's logical, that the Mishnah, the way to read the Mishnah is in a Ketzad, that it's explaining itself. While these are Reisha Eitzim, because if you're going to tell me that the Reisha is referring to Eitzim, once you tell me that if you give raw wood, you're obligated to play. And then, if you would have to pay for wood, what would the reason be? The reason would be that the Mishnah is telling us the exact opposite in. And the reason would be the reason would be that the Uman does not acquire the item. Would you have to teach me such a din? So proves the Gemara makes a lot of sense to learn that case 2 is a Ketzad of case 1. Says the Gemara, imisham ha lo arya. If that's your reason, it does not suffice. It's not a conclusive proof. Why? Because Tani Seifa Liglui Reisha. Because I can tell you that the Seifa is coming to reveal about the Reisha. Shaloi Taimar Reisha Deva Migdal. Don't tell me the Reisha is talking about a box. Avol Eitzim Lai. But in the case of wood, would not work. Tani Seifa Shiteva Migdal Mechlal the Reisha Eitzim Vafilu Achi Chayavin L'Shalim. And again, let's just be clear, as we always try to point out, the Gemara just proved that we don't say the Hachinam Mistavra. The Teretz still stands. We don't have a reason not to say the Teretz, the Uman Koine V'Shachli. We just don't have the Raya. So says the Gemara, let's bring a different Raya. Says the Mishnah Noisin Sem Litzavaya. You give wool to a dyer, a Mishnah that will have tomorrow. Vikti Chayoiron, if that burned it, Samrai, you have to give him the value of the wool. You ruined his wool. You got to give him the value of his wool. Says the Gemara, Demeit Samrayin, what's obvious, diuk from this latter Mishnah, Demeit Samrayin, you got to pay him for the wool. Demeit Samrayin, Shvachai Loib, you don't have to pay him for the betterment. Lav is the case that I'm referring to, Sheikh Dichai La'achar Nefila, that it ruined the wool after it fell in. What does it mean it fell in? It means that the dye was ready, grabbed hold, meaning the item had a betterment, and yet we see that what's the halacha? We see that halacha is that you got to pay, but you don't pay for the demei shvach. Shema mina una koine v'shvach kli. So clearly, the reason is that he is koine. He has a kinyan once the wool is better, and that's the reason why all he has to pay afterwards is for the wool and not for the shvach. Amar Shmuel no raya. Hacham Mayaskina on 5 lines to the top. Saditasam and Aleph. Go check Dichai Bishas Nefila. It happened at the same time. To like a Shvacha. Avalik Dichal Acha Nefila. But if indeed it happened after the dye already took hold to the item, nicely to make Samrai Ushvachai, then you would have to pay for both. Lema Shmuel. Lastly, Dravasi. So then it would come out that Shmuel doesn't love Rasi. Amr Shmuel. Chamaiskin did Semer Usamanim. The Balabayis is Seva Agar Yadehu de Shakel. Really, all the utensils belong to the Balabayis. And all he's doing is he's taking his wages for the work that he does. So why does it say Demeit Samrai should add in Usmanim, the value of the item? Must be Shmuel just pushing off the proof. But we do not have a conclusive raya from this Mishnah. Continues the Gemara. About 12 lines down, the first line is the Chuye Tashema, continuing trying to ask on the teretz of Ravasi that he tried to answer that everything is predicated on the fact that we say Uman Kaine Bishvachli. Tashema Naisaliza Uman Lingamroi. One gives his towels to a craftsman. He finished it and he told the owner that it's done. Even if it's 10 days later, even if it's 10 days later and the person didn't pick up his item, and therefore he didn't pay him for it, he's not over on loisalin, which is the isser of leaving payment overnight. But if he gives him back his talis, his cloak, in the middle of the day, the moment the sun sets, then you're yes over on Baltalin, the Issa Daraisa of paying workers on time. So proves the Gemara. If you're going to tell me am I over Baltalin? If the Uman is kind of the item, when it's better, so now it's Keilu the Uman's item. So why is the owner over on Baltalim if he doesn't pay him that day? Amar Amari Breder of Kahana, Bigarda de Sarvala. What are we talking about over here? Talking about fixing this thick garment, Leka Shvacha, that the item itself was never properly bettered, and therefore there was no kinyan by the Uman. Says Gemara Saif Laman Yahavi Nihale. Saif, what did the owner give him? What did the owner? What was the point of giving it to him? Clearly, he's fixing it. L'Rekuve says the Gemara to soften it. So kiven the Rekuve Hanu Shvache, which really is the fundamental shiloh over here is that we're discussing the Shvach Okay, so if it was better, it was better. What are we trying to make it that it has to be so ironclad? Says the Gemara, says the Gemara, no, he hired the craftsman to stamp the cloth. So says the Gemara, Shkayach bitcha. B'ma'asa, a ma'a for every stamp, hainus chirus, which is chirus, a different type. It's not kablanos. You're paying him for the hours for the work that he does. Says the Gemara, l'maydis halkadaiton meikara, shloyagri levitcha. That what you thought originally, that the loy agri lebitcha, that we're not talking about the person who was hired to stamp the item. Mekar agri lebitcha. Then we have to say the same thing in the. Excuse me. One more time. Where are we? Well, the might is all get the mekar loy agri lebitcha. Messiah later Rav Sheshes. The boy name Rav Sheshes asked from Rav Sheshes. Kablanos. He's not an hourly worker, so is there such an issue? Do you have to pay him on time? Rav Sheshes responded, you're over. So lame with the Rav Sheshes, Rav Asi, Rav Shmuel, says the Gemara, is Rav Sheshes taking sides? Is Rav Ami and Shmuel taking sides? What in the machlokes of Rav Sheshes? Because it comes out the lema of Sheshes pligi. I apologize, I keep losing the place over here. Lema de Rav Sheshes pligi ad Rav Asi. There it goes. Let's say Rav Sheshes argues on Rav Asi. Amar Shmuel Baracha. That's why I read it wrong. Lema de Rav Sheshes pligi ad Rav Asi. Amar Shmuel Baracha bishlicha de igra. No, Sheshes is talking about is someone who is a shliach, who's contracted to carry a letter. Therefore, his work is never considered improvement because all he's doing is he is the transport. So after numerous rayas back and forth, finally says the Gemara, Lema Kitanoi. Let us suggest that this din of Rav Asi, this classical din, whether an uman is koine b'shvach kli or not, let's suggest that in reality, this is an earlier machlokes tanoim. Asali shirayim nizmin v'tabois v'kadesh l'cha. Says the price of woman gives gold to craftsman and says, make for me jewelry and I'll marry to you with it. Give him to Asan. Once he makes that jewelry, make good dashes. If you're a mayor, remain a good dashes. Until she gets the cash. So my mom doesn't mean she gets the mammon. Not that money. There's other monies that they're paying to do it. Everyone holds that where the schiras go, you're obligated to pay the whole time, that every moment that someone works, it builds and builds. The Kuli Alma, everyone holds. Hamakadish b'milva, trying to get married with a loan, Eina Mikudesh. So my love, so what then is the machlokes? The machlokes is the uman kaina b'shachli, and therefore can he subsequently be married to this woman via the work that he did? You're a 5 lines on the wide lines, uman kaina b'shachli. That's Gemara Zeraya. That it's indeed a machlokes. Answers Gemara loy. The kulei inu mekanim b'shachli. And again, in classical Gemara form, anytime you start off and you say given A, given B, and C is the variable, the teretz is no. Given A and given B are not an ironclad variable. You're telling me that everyone knows Yesh l'schim v'tchilavat saif. I'll tell you that Gufa is the machlokes. In the first Y line of the bottom of Saditezim and Alpha Meir Savi and Saif, Rabbanan Savi Yesh l'schir v'tchilavat saif. Teretz number 1. Teretz number 2. V'yibaysim dekam Yesh l'schir v'tchilavat saif. The other variable, the Meir Savar Mikashimilva Mikdash. But it's Haveri Kashimilva Einoi Mikudash. So the Gemara deflects that indeed this is not an earlier machlokes tanaim. And with that, we turn over to Sadites Amid Beis and comes along Rava, and Rava teaches us another way of learning the aforementioned price. So Oh, the kuli alma kasher milva ena mekudeshes. Oh, the kuli alma inu when gonna be shakli. So what's the machlokes? Says Rava 4 lines down. You know what the machlokes is halachah ma'yaskin and gon shahoisef lanoifach mishaloi. The story is that the craftsman added on a gemstone, a little dot onto the item from his own, which was not commissioned by the original owner. So Meir Savar Milva, Upruta, Taita Pruta. Over here, there's a whole alpha, and then the worker added on one little pruta on top, says Rameir. So if you're Mekadesh, with that entity, it works because the mindset is that it's going on the pruta. Therefore, it does not work. It says the Gemara, this is a earlier machlekes Tanoim the Tanya. Someone says with the work, the wages that I'm go shasiti imach, that you work for me, eino mikudashes. With the work that you will do for me, then yes, Mr. Kudashes. Also, I remember shasi imach eino mikudashes. Chosh kev shasiti imach. But if you don't nasi, I remember be'emes amru. Says if you don't nasi, know what the emes is. Being b'schar shasiti imach b'schar shasi imach. In both cases, as Rabbi Nasi, Einoi Mikudesh. Then Mikudesh. So Ma bein Tanikam the Rav Nalson. He could be Nayus Chiros. Bein Rav Nalson, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. He could be Nayom Milva Pruta. So says the Gemara, that is the different machlokes. Amar Shmuel Tavach. Amar Shmuel. So with such a knowledge, says Amar Shmuel, Tabach Uman Shekilkel Chayiv Lishalim. Someone who is a Uman to do Tvicha, to do Shchita, and if via the act of Shchita ruined the animal, what's the halacha? Says Shmuel Chayavim Lishalim. Hu Paishea, Hu Nasek Arm Lishchali Mikan Vashachat. Loi Mikan. It's as if he told him to shach from one place and he shached from another place. Says the Gemara, Salama lei lemeimar maziku paishehu. Why are you telling me that he is the mazik paishehu? Why didn't he just say he's the mazik? That's only echel de ka'avi b'schar, echel de ka'avi b'chinam loy. So continues the Gemara on the second wide line of Sadites Amid Beis, dealing with this din of Shmuel. This din of Shmuel in which he learned that in Uman Tabach, again, we're dealing with an expert slaughterer, an expert shaychet, and he shechted incorrectly. We said even when he's working for nothing, still he is obligated. Asking Rav Chama bar Gorila Shmuel, and I say Meimale Tabach, Unevela, Vinivla, he made into Nevela, Potter. He's going to be Potter, whereas Hediet, no, not. Again, I apologize for having these issues today. One more time. Isir Rav Nachman bar Gorila Shmuel. Hanoisin behema letabach vinivla. Uman Potter. If he's an Uman, he's going to be Potter. If he's a Hediet, he's going to be Chayiv. If Nasas Chayv ben Hediet ben Uman, he's going to be Chayiv. So what do we see? We see that if the Uman is not getting paid, then he is indeed not Chayiv. Amar le'rishvat Shmuel achikar boichech. Says Shmuel, your brain should be mushed up. Says the Gemara. Now let's read a story. Let's relate a story to what's going on. A certain Rav came to Shmuel. Said Shmuel, you're going to give me the same treatment that your friend gave me? I said to both of you, like Rameir, what's your kasha? I told you go to Rameir. Amai loy daik. Mili, you want to know why didn't you Why are we not medayik like this? Omer mazik hu paishehu nasikam l'shachal limikan v'shachal loimikan. And it says the Gemara, you know why? He's a mazik, he's a paishehu. It's as if he said we do shchita from point A, which of course would be a kosher shchita, and he did shchita from point B. So man isle haisvar. Who is the Baal Memra for such a svara? Rabbi Meir da'amar mibayle lemirme anavshei. Says like Rabbi Meir, the Rabbi Meir holds that person has to pay attention in order to make sure not to damage someone else's property, and therefore we give him an extra chiyuv, even though it normally would not exist. Says hey Rameir, where's this Rameir? Ile mahar Rameir did to not. Kashu bailim and masir, if the bailim tied up the animal with a rope, and he shut the door properly, v'yatsa, and went out, is it going to damage? Bein tam bein muad chayiv devir Rameir. Hasam, I'll tell you, it's not a raya, but cry kabligi. They're arguing with, how do you touch up the pasuk? Says the Gemara, Allah Damar Rameir, that which Rameir says, the Tanan, the Tzvah Adam, it's of a shachar, the Tzvah Adam, Rameir, Minaslai to meet summary. So over there, Rameir does agree, you only have to pay for the wool. Hasam biyadav, kalav mi nay. That's going to be a different case. Because over there, he burnt it on purpose. Biyadav kalav mi nay. So says the Gemara, according to Rameir, you should yes be chayev elahar Rameir. Rather, which Rameir we referring to? Titanya or Titanan. Nishra kadav lo silkan afli kamalai v'lo hemidai. Barak HaKain is that what happens if Zaina breaks it, he didn't remove it, his camel falls, and he didn't stand it up. Rabbi Meir Oimer, Chayiv in Izaki, V'chama Oimer Potter, Midini Adav Chayiv Edine, Shamayim HaKaim Alon, Tibiniskal Paishehu. Says the Gemara, you know, we hold that the case of Niskal, if someone trips, that is considered a Pshia. We wrap up for today, says the Gemara. What's the story? Let's go a little bit deeper into this Tabach Uman, to the Sheikh who is supposed to be a professional, and he seemingly isn't. Amar Rav Chanan Rav Yochanan Tabach Uman Shekil Chayiv. Va'afilu, in comments the Gemara, Va'afilu Uman Kitabache Siparim. Amar Rav Yochanan Hachin, does Rav Yochanan really hold it? So Amar Rav Chanan Have Ovda Have Kamid Rav Yochanan Bekinishta Dema'ain Va'amar Le, and you know what he said? Zil. I see Raya de Mimachas Latani Goylim Bapatrucha. Says the Gemara, that's not a kasha. Like kasha kan bechinam kan bischar. Kadam Rav Zira Rochi is chayiv loy tabach yaktim loy dinner. That's the way to make chayiv him. Says the Gemara, Meisvei Amal Chita Litzcham Lo Sidin Vasad Subin or Morrison Kamach Leatchai Masa Pas Nifulin Behemel Tabach V'Nivla. And all these cases that you gave over an item for them to fix, them to finish, and they damaged it. Chayiv him nay Shukinaisis Sachar, as if they barred it. Emam nay Shukinaisis Sachar. Says Gemara, that is indeed the reason, because it's like a Naisich Sachar. We're gonna have to stop over here by who Margumta, excuse me. B'siyata Shmaya in the next year.